On today's show, I'm breaking down the middle third of my top 30 midseason prospects, including a surprise name that nobody saw coming and someone who is already helping the Rangers out in the big leagues. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Today is Tuesday, July 11th. We are at the All-Star break. I believe it is actually All-Star Day. I'm recording this in advance on Saturday morning, so I don't know exactly what the Rangers record is at this point or what they did in the draft last night, Tuesday, Sunday night, whatever night it was in comparison to when this is coming out. But you know, and that's all that matters. I'll get into that on Thursday's show whenever I get back in town. Before we get into this next middle third of the Rangers' top 30 prospects, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, we last left off with Davis Wendzel at number 21. If you haven't watched or listened to the last episode of this top 30, some really interesting guys in there, including quite a few guys from the 2020 undrafted free agent signing class that the Rangers did a really good job on. There's another one of those guys in here, but this next guy at number 20, we have Alex Speas, someone who I never in my wildest dreams would have expected to put him on this top prospect list at the midseason, but he has had a fantastic year. If you don't know about Alex Speas, he is one of the best feel-good stories about the Rangers minor league system this year. The Rangers originally drafted him in the second round of the 2016 MLB draft out of Eachern High School in Powder Springs, Georgia. He is 25 years old, 6'3", 225-pound right-handed relief pitcher who... The scouting report on him is he's got some really great stuff, and if he figured out where it was going, then he could be a very dangerous pitcher. But for most of his minor league career, up until this point, he didn't know where it was going at all. This year, he's got a little bit better of an idea, and he took all last season off. He retired from pro ball. He was coaching high school baseball, and his daughter told him, hey, you need to give it one more shot. Just give it one more shot. Call up the Rangers, see if they'll have you. And see if you've got anything left in the tank. And so he did, and he was absolutely fantastic for Frisco this season before getting promoted to Round Rock. He's pitched 3 games in Round Rock, but in 23 games in Frisco, he had a 0.64 ERA in 28 and a third innings, 47 strikeouts to 13 walks, 4.1 walks per 9, and that is 14.9 Ks per 9. For his minor league career, he has got 14.3 Ks per 9, but 7.1 walks per 9. So those walks have always been an issue for him. The last bit of organized baseball he played before this season, before he unretired, was in Frisco as a 23-year-old in 2021. He had an ERA over 11 in 12 innings pitched. He had nearly twice as many walks as innings pitched, and just not great stuff for him the last time we saw him, and it kind of looked like he was done the last time we saw him back in 2021, but he was fantastic this year. In Round Rock, he's pitched in 3 games, 4 2/3 innings, 6 strikeouts to just 1 walk, a 3.86 ERA. He's got a fastball that ranges up to triple digits, but it's a little flat, but he's got a really nice cutter and a really nice slider as well. Those two are probably better pitches than his fastball. It could end up helping this team in relief in the bullpen in October or September. I mean, this guy has got some really, really lights out stuff. He can get that walk problem a little bit more under control. I mean, doesn't have to be, elite with his command because his stuff is so freaking good, but just don't get yourself out of situations before you're able to even get ahead of these hitters. And that's what he's done a good job of this year, is just getting incredible strikeout numbers. And the thing that he's done very, very well is with runners on this year. He's got a slash line against him of 123, 206, 169. He has been fantastic in 73 plate appearances with runners on base. He has been brought in a lot to get the Rough Riders out of jams when he was down in Frisco in big situations where there were either runners, bases loaded. He's come in for starters, coming with runners on the corners with multiple runners. He come in high leverage situations. He's done a very, very good job in those. He definitely earned his promotion. He probably could have been promoted 2, 3, 4 weeks ago even, because he had shown that there was nothing left for him to learn against those AA hitters. Now we'll see how he can stack up against AAA hitters, and maybe we'll see him in the big league pen by the end of the season. He has been a great feel-good story, and not only that, but a great pitcher as well. Number 19 on the prospect list, we have Jonathan Ornelas, a utility infielder who plays shortstop, third base, second base, also a little bit of time in the outfield this year. He was the Rangers' third-round pick back in the 2018 draft. He is 23 years old. He has been added to the 40-man roster, and in AAA Round Rock this year, he has been just okay offensively, not anything too special. A slash line of 257, 372, 366. That is a 738 OPS. Only 5 home runs and 12 doubles in 69 games played to this point. The on base of 372, that's what you're really looking at. He is not going to bring a whole lot of power, but he is going to have some very competitive at-bats. He is going to play a lot of different positions and play them very well. This year he has played 47 games at shortstop, 7 games in center field, 12 at second base, and 4 at third base. Last year in Frisco, he had 86 games at shortstop, 4 in center field, 29 at third base. And he was primarily a shortstop and center fielder, 27 games in Hickory at center field back in 2021, and 60 games at shortstop. So he's basically an up-the-middle guy, and I haven't seen him much in center field. I've seen him a lot at shortstop, and that is a legitimate defensive big league shortstop who can give you competitive at-bats and play a lot of different positions and provide a whole lot of value. If it wasn't for Josh Smith and Ezekiel Duran, he might be on the Rangers big league roster at this point, but they have those two guys, and Ornelas hasn't exactly been crushing it offensively. That's the last thing that they really need to see from him. I mean, his defense is a known commodity, and with these new shift restriction rules, there's a lot more value in guys who play legitimate defense at up the middle, and Jonathan Ornelas is that. He can provide competitive at-bats. He can be, I don't know if his ceiling is an everyday big leaguer, but he's definitely a guy who could be a very quality utility infielder I could very easily see him having a 10-plus year big league career. This is a really great guy in the clubhouse, a guy who the Rangers really, really like quite a bit, still 23 years old, and I think is probably going to end up being trade bait, included as a sweetener in a deal for somebody at midseason, but that would be good for him because he deserves some big league run at some point. Not the best offensive year, but still a really valuable player who has had a great season and one of the big beneficiaries, I should say, of the rule changes. Number 18 on the prospect list, we have Gleider Figuereo, a 6-foot, 165-pound third baseman, hits left-handed, throws right-handed. He is 19 years old, signed out of Las Matas de Farfan in the Dominican Republic. He just turned 19 years old on June 27th, so he has been very young for the league in Down East. This is his first full season of stateside full-season ball, unless you count the Arizona Complex League. I don't really count that because that was only 35 games last year, but this year for Down East, he's been all right. Not too exceptional. 7 home runs, 8 doubles in 63 games played, 265 plate appearances, batting average of just 230, on base 321, slugging just 357. But last year in the Complex League, he really stood out as an 18-year-old, had a slash line of 280, 363, and 616, a 979 OPS, 5 dingers, 5 triples, or 9 dingers, 5 triples, 5 doubles in 146 plate appearances at the Arizona Complex League. He is still very young for Down East. Would like to see him show a little bit more power than he has, and I'm hoping for a bigger second half. It was a rough first month of the season, but he has looked a little bit better offensively. His ceiling is pretty high with that raw power being so good and showing it off at such a young age. I think he is a legitimate defensive third baseman. Probably not a great one, but definitely one who could handle position okay, and has a pretty high offensive ceiling, even though he hasn't quite lived up to it this season. Still very young for his level and putting up okay numbers and holding his own in full season ball. Coming up, we're going to look at a local kid who just made his AA debut, someone who is already out for the season, and a teenager who we saw in the World Baseball Classic. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for everything you want. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you'll never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be wrapping up this series of the top 30 prospects. The Rangers take on the Guardians this weekend. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, we are at the number 17 prospect on this mid-season top prospect ranking. That is Josh Stephan, a 6'3", 185-pound right-handed pitcher, undrafted, I should say, part of that 2020 undrafted free agent class, signed for just $20,000, and that 2020 class of draftees and undrafted free agent signings is looking absolutely fantastic for the Rangers. Stephan is a 21-year-old right-handed starting pitcher. He was born in DeSoto, graduated from South Grand Prairie High School, and he has already made his AA debut. He has been excellent so far this season. Split time between Hickory and Frisco. In Hickory, he had a 2.17 ERA in 12 games, 62 and a third innings, 73 strikeouts, and 12 walks, 1.7 walks per nine to 10.5 Ks per 9. This guy's stuff is not anything that's extremely overpowering, but it has been very, very effective. He's got a fastball in kind of the low 90s, more of a two-seamer, and also got a four-seamer that can run up into the mid-90s, but the slider is probably his best pitch. It works very well with his changeup. He knows how to sequence his pitches very well. He locates the fastball. He can stay in the zone, and he does not walk guys and gets good strikeouts. That is exactly what I'm looking for in a starting pitcher, and the fact that he's 21 years old, was undrafted, is already in AA is a huge testament to how much the Rangers believe in him and how effective he's been so far. In terms of that 2020 class, you have the draftees, which goes Justin Foscue, Evan Carter, Tekoah Roby, Dylan McLean, and Thomas Saggese. And then the undrafted free agents, you have Josh Stephan, Aidan Curry, Jose Corniell, and Abimelec Ortiz. All of those guys, all of those 4 undrafted signees are in my top 30 prospects. There might have been a few other ones that I'm missing that aren't in my top 30, but I will say 4 out of the 5 2020 draftees are in my top 30 prospects. So you got 8 guys combined from the draftees and the undrafted free agents of that 2020 class. I mean, good Lord, that is a heck of a coup that the Rangers did, scouting very, very well. They were patting themselves on the back after that 2020 class, and Grant Schiller and I at the time were like, you guys have not earned the benefit of doubt to say, wow, we really stole one in that Evan Carter kid, and wow, our whole draft is so freaking good. And we're like, no, it's not. And then here we are 3 years later saying, wow, that was an absolute coup. I don't know how they did that, and they should feel very, very good about themselves and how much success they had. Josh Stephan is going to be a big part of that class. His ceiling is probably a mid-rotation pitcher, guy with 3 above average pitches. I think could be a mid-rotation starter, maybe a back-end rotation starter. To get that from an undrafted free agent signing, undrafted free agent signing is just absolutely massive. Number 16, we are moving on to Yeison Moribel. Unfortunately, Yeison Morrobel is out for the season with a torn labrum, but before he was out, he was putting up some really good numbers with Down East. He is a 6'2", 170-pound left-handed hitting, left-handed throwing outfielder playing mostly center field. He is 19 years old, doesn't turn 20 until December 8th. Born in 2003, signed out of Luperon in the Dominican Republic. This year in Down East, he wasn't putting up the best power numbers, but his on-base was fantastic at 384. As a 19-year-old, 2 years younger than the average Down East player, that is really, really impressive. The season before in the Arizona Complex League, he put up some really impressive numbers in 41 games there, hit 329 with an on-base over 400 and an OPS of 891, had 3 homers and 13 doubles and a triple as well. This year he had 12 steals to just 3 times caught stealing, 22 walks to 34 strikeouts in 151 plate appearances at Down East, just 37 games, which is a shame because he was putting up pretty solid numbers, and I would like to see him hit for a little bit more power. He's played primarily center field. This year in Down East he played 12 games in center field, 21 games in right field, but before that he was playing a lot more center field. And in the Dominican Summer League, his first year in 2021, 50 games in center field there to just 18 in left field the next year. So mostly center field, left field, right field. There's a lot of outfielders there in Down East that were trying to split time between center field. I think eventually that's kind of where his ceiling is hoping that he is a center fielder with a lot of speed, a lot of on base. Maybe he gets a little bit more pop in there, but he's still 19 years old, so it's not unexpected for him to not put up some really flashy power numbers just yet. Would have liked to seen a little bit more from him, just more of his season. I mean, you don't want anybody to be out with an injury for a season-ending injury, especially a torn labrum. That is a real bummer for him. But it was good to see him put up some pretty solid numbers as a 19-year-old in Down East. I'm assuming he'll probably go back to Down East next year to get some more seasoning there. But anyway, just not the news you would want from him. Next guy, we have another youngster, a no longer teenage Mitch Bratt, who was 19 years old in the World Baseball Classic, pitching for Team Canada to a team full of all-world hitters, probably better even than the all-star lineup that is going out there, although there was no Corey Seager, so maybe he'd be happy to not have to face Corey Seager in that World Baseball Classic. But he got lit up there, and it was really frustrating that he was basically thrown to the wolves by Team Canada, but it didn't affect him at all this year. He's come back. He's a 5th-round pick in the 2021 draft. He just turned 20 on July 3rd. He is a left-handed starting pitcher, 6'1", 190 pounds, and this year in Hickory, as a his age 19 season, he turned 20 in the middle of it. He is 4.2 years younger than the average Sally League player, and in that Sally League he's thrown 52 2/3 innings in 13 games, a 3.56 ERA, 13 walks to 63 strikeouts, over 10 Ks per 9, and 2.1 walks per 9. Really, really solid numbers for him. Last year, as an 18-year-old in Down East, he threw 82 2/3 innings with 11 Ks per 9 and 3.1 walks per 9 and a 2.45 ERA. This year, he's gotten hit a little bit more for the home run ball and just a little bit hit more in general, but still a really, really solid season for him. We'd like to see those hit numbers come down just a little bit. His stuff isn't exactly overpowering, but he knows how to locate it very, very well. And I mean, at 20 years old in high A and probably on the verge of a promotion to Double A, that is really, really encouraging stuff. He is mainly in the low 90s with his fastball. Again, not super overpowering. He has touched 96, but he commands it very, very well. Like you see with those walk rates being down so low, that's what you love to see. And when you're a lefty, you can get away with that a little bit more. We've seen another guy later on coming up that is a lefty who does not have the most overpowering stuff, but has had success in the big leagues. Coming up, we're going to look at the final 4 in this middle third, including another 2020 draft pick and somebody who, actually a couple more 2020 draft picks, and someone who is already helping the Rangers out in the big leagues. But first, let's word from our sponsors. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes in life we're faced with tough choices and the path forward isn't always clear. Whether you're dealing with decisions around career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want when you navigate life, so you can move forward with confidence and excitement. Trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. If you're looking to start therapy, BetterHelp is a great place to start. I've recently been starting therapy, and it's been incredibly helpful. So if you're thinking about starting it, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time with no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonmlb today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonmlb. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Thursday's show, I'll be recapping what happened in the MLB draft on Sunday. The Rangers take on the Guardians this weekend. You can catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, we are at the number 14 prospect in my mid-season list. We have Tekoah Roby, the right-handed starting pitcher, the Rangers' third-round pick in the 2020 draft. He is 21 years old, doesn't turn 22 until September 18th. He was born in 2001. Gosh, these guys are just so freaking young, making me feel very, very old. The Rangers drafted him out of Pine Forest High School in Pensacola, Florida, and this year he has been in AA Frisco, has missed a little bit of time with a shoulder injury. It's not expected to be too serious, should be coming back at some point in the near future, maybe after the All-Star break, but so far this year he has been in Frisco as a 21-year-old, 3.8 years younger than the average Texas League player. Last year he was 3 years younger than the average Hickory player, and this year he hasn't put up the most impressive numbers, but the fact that he is 21 years old and in Frisco tells you a lot about what the Rangers believe in him. His repertoire isn't anything that's completely overpowering. He's got basically 3+ pitches that are 4 kind of above average to maybe plus pitches that he knows how to command and knows how to throw very, very well. The last couple of years he's been fixing his delivery a little bit. It was a little wonky and not quite super repeatable, and that is one of the things that made his numbers not look as great last year and has made it look not as great this year, but still a fastball that grades out as MLB Pipeline has all 4 of his pitches as a future 55 grade. The control is 50 grade as well, and he's done everything the Rangers have asked of him, and I'd like to see him on the mound a little bit more. He's got a 5 ERA in 10 starts, 46 in a third innings, to 50 strikeouts to 12 walks this year, a whip of 1.32. Last year had a 4.64 ERA, but his first full season, that was the most impressive numbers-wise. That was in Down East, a 2.45 ERA in 6 starts, 22 innings, and 35 strikeouts for him. So he's been putting up some pretty impressive numbers, even though, pretty impressive performances in general, even though the numbers aren't quite as impressive. The stuff is very, very good. Grant Schiller is a big proponent of this guy and a big believer in him. When I had him, I believe at 18 before the season, Grant Schiller said, yeah, no, you got to bump that guy up. You got to pump that guy way up because he is way too low. Right now, I have him at 14. I think might have moved him up to 15 before the season. So he hasn't moved up that much. It's more just about graduations than his performance impressing me, but I'm hoping to get a look at him in person sometime in the second half. Hopefully he can be healthy enough that I can be there and he can be on the mound when I'm seeing him, but don't look as much at the numbers. Look at where he is and his age. That is what tells you how the Rangers feel about Tekoah Roby. Now, number 13 on the list, we have someone who is already in the big leagues and helping out quite a bit. That is Cody Bradford, and I got to applaud myself, pat myself on the back, because I had Cody Bradford at 15 in my preseason prospect rankings. I was a big Cody Bradford believer. I still am. We just saw his best professional start. He went 5 innings with 1 run against the Nationals. If you don't know about Cody Bradford, he is the Rangers, I believe, 6th-round pick in 2019, drafted out of Baylor. Had shoulder surgery, so he didn't pitch very much in his final season at Baylor, but the Rangers were a believer in the Alito kid. He is 6'4", 197 pounds, drafted. He is 25 years old, just turned 25 in February of this year, but he has already had some real success at the big league level. His fastball spin rate isn't anything special. It is a more of a two-seamer, I believe. So in the 21st percentile of the big leagues. The velocity is just 90 miles an hour. That's the 11th percentile of the big leagues. But his extension rate is in the 98th percentile. So he's 6'4", and he really gets all the way down that mound. So it is just jumping on guys, and his command has been excellent this season. We saw it look very excellent against the Washington Nationals, just dotting the corners every which way. He's got a really, really nice changeup. The fastball pairs well with it. The slider is pretty solid. Nothing too spectacular, in the curveball, he just uses it 2% of the time in the big leagues this year. But we've seen him have some really, really nice outings against Baltimore in his second start. He didn't get lit up nearly as much as he did against Atlanta. Just a real throw you to the wolves kind of moment for his big league debut. But he allowed 2 runs in the beginning, in the first inning against Baltimore, then settled down and threw 4 shutout innings. And then this last start with 5 innings and just 1 run. And the appearance before that against Houston in that wild game that was the Monday before the All-Star break, he pitched 2 1/3 scoreless innings, no hits, no walks, just 1 hit batter was the only batter to reach against him, and 4 strikeouts. He really kept the Rangers in that game, gave them a chance to come back, and they did. They didn't end up winning, but it was not the fault of Cody Bradford. He has been solid and very helpful, and I think he might get a lot more starts in the second half. He's only had, I believe, 4 starts, and a couple of those were just spot starts. But he's been very valuable, and I am a believer in Cody Bradford as a back-end starter, reliable back-end starter for the Rangers, and he might be the first reliable starting pitcher that the Rangers have developed in quite some time, and that would be a huge testament to him and a really big boon for the Rangers. Now, at number 12 in the prospect rankings, we have another part of that 2020 draft class. It is Thomas Saggese. The infielder was the Rangers' 5th round pick in the 2020 draft. He is 21 years old, just turned 21 in April of this year, drafted out of Carlsbad High School in California, and he just hits. He just hits, and he plays every single infield position. This year in Frisco, he is absolutely mashing. He's got 12 home runs in 77 games, 349 plate appearances, 19 doubles, 3 triples, a slash line of 313, 382, 513, a 895 OPS. 895 OPS is a guy who's 3.6 years younger than the average AA or Texas League player. He has just hit at every level he's been at. He had an 834 OPS in his first season of full season ball in Down East as a 19-year-old back in 2021. Then last year, he split time between Frisco and Hickory, mostly at Hickory, in 103 games. Last year, 400 plate appearances. He had 15 bombs, 25 doubles, 4 triples, an OPS of 868. Slugged over 500, on base of 361. The guy just hits. He hits very well. He's played mostly second base this year. He has also played a little bit of third base, 25 games at second, 29 at third, 6 at shortstop for his minor league career. He has played every single infield position. Granted, it was just 1 game at first base, but 108 games at second base, 85 at third, and 32 at shortstop across all levels in 3 seasons. The guy has just been very, very impressive. He started off his season pretty hot, but in the last 28 games, he has been absolutely on fire. That's 23 games, 106 plate appearances over that 28-day span. In that span, he's got 6 home runs, 8 doubles, a triple, hitting 398, on base of 491, and slugging 716. He has just been absolutely setting the entire world ablaze. I wouldn't be surprised if he's promoted to AAA by the end of the season. I think he's an everyday big leaguer. He's probably at second base or third base is where he's best suited. The defense is solid, maybe above average at second base, and I think would be about average at third base. But if he keeps hitting like this and showing this power, I mean, he's a guy who could hit 20 home runs and have an on base, a decent on base in the 330, 340-ish range, and a guy who plays decent second base and hits 20 bombs and has a decent on-base percentage. That is an everyday big leaguer if I've seen one. I don't know that there's a spot for him on the Rangers, and if he's just their super utility guy and maybe replaces a Josh Smith, that's probably the most likely role for the Rangers. Or he's going to be traded somewhere, and someone's going to like his defense a whole lot. Maybe they'll believe in him as a shortstop. But I mean, the guy just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting, and I think he's got a lot of value and could provide. It could be a key piece for the Rangers to trade for maybe some bullpen help, or if the Rangers even want to go for a starting pitcher. I think this is a guy with a lot of value, and the Rangers getting that in a 5th round pick in that 2020 draft is absolutely massive. The last guy for today's show is number 11, Aaron Zavala, the former second-round pick out of Eugene, Oregon. Born in Eugene, Oregon, drafted out of the University of Oregon back in the 2021 draft. He signed for a little bit actually significantly less than the slot bonus because there was a health scare with him. There was a worry that he might not ever play baseball. Thankfully, it turned out to be something that he can play through. He'll be just fine. And he has done very, very well for the Rangers so far in his minor league career. This year, after coming off a shoulder injury, it took him until, I believe it was the end of May that he finally came back. He's only played in 41 games. He hasn't quite shown the same amount of pop, but the on-base is still there. The profile with him is a guy who walks a crap ton, plays an okay defense in left field. I think he'll be fine. He's not going to be anything spectacular out there. He's got some power. He doesn't always tap into it as much as you would like, but this year, the on-base has been excellent. A 356 on-base, hitting just 197, slugging just 293 this year. That hasn't been great, and that's kind of why I dropped him down. I believe he was at number 7 last year, or at the beginning of the year, so I've dropped him just a little bit because that power has not shown up. I still think he's probably playing a little bit hurt. It's taken a while to fully get back from that injury. The on-base is legitimate. He sees a lot of pitches. He's one of the few guys you can put ahead of the lineup of Evan Carter because his on-base might even be better than Evan Carter's at the big league level. But a future left fielder / DH, I think that he could be the Rangers left fielder of the future. But, I mean, with Ezekiel Duran breaking out and Evan Carter being there and Leo Taveras being there, I don't know how much of a full-time spot he's got. I don't think the Rangers are going to trade him because there's not a whole lot of value because of those concerns with health. So they might as well just ride it out to see what he can do. Hopefully he can start tapping in that power a lot more than he has early on this season. He can start getting the batting average up a little bit. Last year, between two different teams in 30 games at Frisco, 81 games at Hickory, he had a slash line of 277, on base of 420, slugged 453. He had 16 bombs and 18 doubles this year. He just got 3 bombs and 5 doubles in 41 games. Again, I'm a believer in this guy. I think the Rangers are a big believer in this guy, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Hopefully he can start to show a little bit more of that pop that put him in my top 10 before the season. That's going to do it for today's show. Like I said, on tomorrow's show, I'll be breaking down the top 10, and I'll talk about where the hypothetical draft picks that have happened, and I do not know if what has happened, where they would slot in my top 30. That's going to do it for this show, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.